Breaking news, Viking Nation, 5 seismic revelations are about to rock the heart of Minnesota, and not a single one of you is ready for what's coming. A franchise suffocating under a storm of injuries suddenly finds mathematical proof that a turnaround is inevitable. Stars you never saw coming have exploded onto the scene, boosting their value and rewriting the depth chart in ways that shake the entire NFC North. To its core, a veteran tight end with a decade of battle scars just signed his name in purple, bringing experience when chaos reigns. A trade target the media pushed for months, gone, vanished, snatched by a rival before Minnesota could even make the call. And a punter, yes, a punter, is having a career renaissance so dominant that he's become one of the most valuable weapons on this entire roster. Each of these shocks, each of these twists, could redefine the trajectory of this season and the future of this team. The bye week is here, but the fire inside US Bank Stadium is only growing hotter. So if you bleed purple and gold, if you believe in the shield and the horn, then strap in, because what you're about to hear will make you scream, make you question everything, and make you realize that this Viking ship is far from sinking. Let's go. But hold on, because the first revelation cuts straight to the soul of this offense, and it's a story of survival, suffering, and a statistical resurrection that's about to blow the doors off everything you thought you knew. The Minnesota Vikings offense has been a complete mixed bag through 5 weeks. They have scored over 20 points in 4 of 5 games, including that monstrous 48-point explosion against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 3, where 3 of 4 of those points came directly from the offense. There have been flashes of brilliance, moments where you could see the genius of head coach Kevin O'Connell's play calling shining through the cracks. But let's be real, this unit has also been plagued by problems at every single level. And yet, despite all the chaos, despite all the noise, the numbers are screaming one undeniable truth. Positive regression is coming, and it's coming fast. So what does that mean? It means that the bad luck, the injuries, the penalties, the bizarre breakdowns, all of it is about to flip. And here's how. First, let's talk about the injury apocalypse. The Vikings have lost 13 full games from offensive starters alone. 13. Let that sink in. Left tackle Christian Darrisaw, out 2 games. Left guard Donovan Jackson, 2 games. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy, 3 games. Center Ryan Kelly, to full games, plus he missed the second half of 2 others. Right tackle Brian O'Neill, 1 game. And he played only 3 quarters against the Pittsburgh Steelers after getting hurt. And running back Aaron Jones, 3 games lost against the Cleveland Browns last week in London. The offensive line had only 1 starter on the field during the final drive. Right guard Will Fries, 1 out of 5. Last season, the Vikings were one of the healthiest teams in the league. This year, they've been absolutely obliterated. But here's the beautiful part. Injuries heal. Players return. Continuity rebuilds. And when Darrisaw, Jackson, Kelly, O'Neill, and Jones are all back on the field together, healthy and in sync, this offense is going to look completely different. The regression to the mean is inevitable, and when it happens, defenses across the league better watch out. But wait, there's more. The penalties. Oh, the penalties. Minnesota leads the entire NFL with 44 penalties through 5 weeks. 44. Last year, they had 110 penalties over the entire season, which ranks 16th in the league. They're already at 40% of that total in just 5 games. If they keep this pace, they're on track for 150 penalties, which would have been first in the entire NFL last season by 10 penalties. It's been brutal, embarrassing, and completely uncharacteristic of a Kevin O'Connell coach team. And what's causing it? Procedural penalties, 9 false starts for delays of game, 3 illegal formations, 112 men on the field disaster. 16 of the 44 penalties have come from the offense alone, and the root cause is painfully obvious: lack of continuity. When your center keeps changing, when your quarterback keeps changing, when your left tackle is in and out, the communication breaks down. Guys miss assignments, timing gets thrown off, chaos breeds mistakes. But here's the thing, O'Connell knows it, the coaching staff knows it, and they're using this bye week to fix it. With McCarthy potentially returning soon, with the offensive line getting healthier, with a full week to drill down on discipline and communication, these penalties are going to drop. They have to, and when they do, suddenly this offense isn't shooting itself in the foot every other drive. Suddenly, the chains keep moving. Suddenly, the explosiveness that we saw against Cincinnati becomes the norm, not the exception. And then there's the red zone. Last year, Minnesota ranked 19th in the NFL with a 55.7% red zone touchdown conversion rate. 34 touchdowns on 61 trips. Not terrible, but not good enough for a team with Super Bowl aspiration. This year, 66.7%. 10 touchdowns on 15 trips. That's a massive jump, and a huge reason for that improvement is Jordan Mason, the running back who's been a monster inside the 5-yard line with 3 rushing touchdowns, all from 5 yards or closer. He's been a battering ram when the Vikings need to punch it in. And if the offensive line gets healthy, if the continuity returns, that red zone efficiency should only get better. So let me ask you this, Viking Nation, do you believe in math? Do you believe in the laws of probability? Do you believe that when the storm clears, when the injured return, when the penalties drop, when the red zone dominance continues, this offense is about to unleash hell on the rest of the league? Because if you do, if you believe in this team more than you hate the Packers, then smash that like button right now and let the world know that Minnesota is coming. And just when you think the offense is the only story, think again, because the next revelation is about individual players who have turned doubters into believers, and it's going to blow your mind. Stay with me, because what comes next will flip the script in ways nobody predicted. This isn't about the superstars you already know. This isn't about Justin Jefferson making defenders look foolish or Christian Darrisaw dominating at left tackle or Jonathan Greener terrorizing quarterbacks. No, this is about the players who entered this season as question marks, as backups, as unknowns, and have turned themselves into absolute revelations through the first 5 weeks. 5 players have boosted their stock so dramatically that their futures in this league have been completely rewritten. And the first name on that list, Carson Wentz. Let's be real, when J.J. McCarthy went down with injury, there was panic. Viking Nation held its breath. Could Wentz, the 32-year-old journeyman, the former starter who'd been bounced around the league, actually hold this offense together? The answer has been a resounding yes. Wentz has done exactly what Minnesota needed him to do, provide competent, consistent quarterback play while McCarthy heals. Over the last 3 games, Wentz completed 69 of 100 passes for 759 yards, 5 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. Out of 37 quarterbacks with at least 50 dropbacks this season, Wentz ranks 17th in passer rating, 13th in EPA per play, and 6th in completion percentage over expectation. 6th. The guy has put the ball in Justin Jefferson's hands. He's managed the game. He's made plays when it mattered. And while everyone knows McCarthy is the future, Wentz has proven to the entire league that he can still be an effective starting quarterback. Somewhere, he's boosted his stock, earned respect, and given the Vikings a legitimate bridge option. But the question remains, when McCarthy returns, how do you handle that transition? Because Wentz has earned the right to keep playing. Then there's Xavier Scott, the undrafted running back out of Maine who nobody saw coming. When Aaron Jones hit the injury report, Scott stepped into the RB role and delivered. He's got 49 rushing yards on 15 carries. But the real story is his receiving. 7 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown, with 6 of those receptions coming against the Steelers in Dublin. He's a hybrid weapon, a running back who can line up in the slot and create mismatches. And he's done enough to extend his NFL career for years to come. When Jones returns, Scott will slide back into the RB3 role, but make no mistake, he's proven he belongs. And then there's Isaiah Rodgers, who might have had the greatest single-game performance by a cornerback in NFL history. Week 3 against the Bengals was pure magic, to defensive touchdowns, to forced fumbles, an interception in the end zone, and a perfect 99.9 grade from Pro Football Focus. It was a performance that will be talked about for decades. And while his other 4 games have been solid but not spectacular, Rodgers has established himself as a reliable, playmaking corner who the Vikings can trust. He's become a staple in the secondary, and Viking Nation is going to need more of those game-changing plays as the season grinds on. But the real surprise? The defensive tackles. Minnesota invested heavily in veterans Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave during the offseason, expecting them to dominate. And while both have played well, the most productive interior pass rusher on the entire roster has been Yalen Redmond, a second-year player pulled from the UFL in 2024. Redmond leads the Vikings with 3 sacks, ranks as the highest-graded defensive tackle on the team by PFF, and has been a better run defender than both Allen and Hargrave. He's on a league minimum contract, and he's been a revelation. Minnesota will almost certainly try to lock him up long-term after this season, because players like this, undiscovered gems who become elite, don't come around often. And finally, there's Levi Drake Rodriguez, the 7th-round pick from 2024 who played at the smallest of small schools and is now a legitimate NFL defensive tackle. LDR uses violent hands to make plays against the run. He's tied with Redmond and Greenard for the team lead in tackles for loss with 4, and he occasionally flashes as a pass rusher. He's earning more than 30 snaps per week now, and he's proven that late-round picks can still be stars if they have the heart and the work ethic. So here's the question, Viking Nation, do you believe in the depth of this roster? Do you believe that stars can be found anywhere, from any round, from any league? Because if you do, if you believe that Minnesota has the talent to compete with anyone in the NFC, then drop a comment right now and tell the world who your breakout player of the year is. Let's go. And if you think that was wild, the third story might just redefine everything you thought you knew about roster construction, because a veteran tight end with a decade of experience just joined the purple and gold. And listen, the next chapter is the kind of news that might seem small on the surface, but when you dig deeper, when you understand the context, when you realize what it means for this team's depth and preparation, it becomes a whole lot more interesting. The Minnesota Vikings announced on Thursday that they've signed tight end Nick Vannett to the practice squad. And I know what you're thinking, a practice squad tight end. Really? That's one of the 5 biggest stories of the week. But hold on, because there's more to this move than meets the eye, and it tells you everything you need to know about how Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell are managing this roster in the middle of an injury crisis. Nick Vannett is 32 years old. He's not some young developmental project. He's not a raw athlete with untapped potential. He's a grizzled veteran who's been in the NFL since 2016, when the Seattle Seahawks drafted him in the 3rd round out of Ohio State. Over the last 9 years, Vannett has played for the Seahawks, Steelers, Broncos, Saints, Giants, Texans, Chargers, and Titans. He's been cut, re-signed, traded, and waived more times than most players ever suit up for a game. But he's still here. He's still grinding. And that experience, that knowledge of how to survive in this league, is exactly what the Vikings need right now. Last season with the Tennessee Titans, Vannett appeared in all 17 games. He caught 17 passes on 20 targets for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not spectacular numbers, but solid production from a veteran who knows how to block, how to run routes, and how to be reliable. And in a league where tight ends are increasingly asked to do everything, block defensive ends, run seam routes, chip linebackers, catch in traffic, having a guy like Vannett on the practice squad is insurance. It's depth. It's a safety net in case someone else gets hurt. And let's be real, the Vikings have been absolutely devastated by injuries this season. 13 games lost on offense alone. The offensive line has been a revolving door. Aaron Jones has missed time. J.J. McCarthy has been out. And while the tight end room has stayed relatively healthy, the Vikings know better than anyone that one bad hit, one awkward landing, one freak collision can change everything in an instant. So they brought in Vannett, a guy who can step in tomorrow if needed and not miss a beat. He knows the league, he knows the systems, and he knows how to win. But here's the deeper question. What does this move say about the Vikings' mindset right now? It says they're not panicking. It says they're being proactive. It says they're thinking 3 steps ahead, preparing for every possible scenario, making sure that no matter what happens, they have experienced, reliable players ready to step up. That's the difference between a well-run organization and a team that's scrambling in desperation. When injuries hit, Minnesota is being smart. They're being calculated. And moves like signing Nick Vannett to the practice squad might not make headlines, but they're exactly the kind of chess moves that keep a season alive when chaos strikes. The Vikings practice squad now includes 18 players, a mix of young developmental prospects and veterans like Vannett who bring experience and stability. Guys like cornerback Fabian Moreau, linebacker Sean Takataki, and running back Cam Akers, all veterans who've played meaningful snaps in this league and can be elevated to the active roster in a moment's notice. That's depth, that's preparation, that's championship-level roster management. And let me ask you this, Viking Nation, do you trust Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to build a roster that can survive the injury apocalypse? Do you trust Kevin O'Connell to use every available resource, every veteran presence, every experienced player to keep this team competitive? Because if you do, if you believe that the front office and coaching staff have this team on the right track, then hit that subscribe button right now and show the world that Minnesota is built different. Let's go. But trust me, the story only gets darker from here, because the next twist will leave you speechless. A trade target that the media linked to Minnesota for months just got snatched away, and the implications are huge. But that's not the only fire burning inside this franchise. The next revelation is even more explosive, and it's going to leave half of Viking Nation furious and the other half relieved. For months, the Minnesota Vikings were linked to Cleveland Browns cornerback Greg Newsome too. The rumors were everywhere. The speculation was constant. Analysts, insiders, and fans all pointed to Newsome as the perfect trade target for Minnesota. A young, talented cornerback who could solidify the secondary and give Brian Flores another weapon to unleash in his chaotic defensive schemes. And here's the kicker. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was in the Browns front office when Cleveland drafted Newsome. In the first round back in 2021, the connection was there. The fit made sense. Everything pointed to a potential trade. And then, on Wednesday night, it all went up in smoke. ESPN's Michael Duraco broke the news. The Jacksonville Jaguars and Cleveland Browns executed a trade, swapping cornerbacks Tyson Campbell and Greg Newsome along with draft picks. The Jaguars sent Campbell and a 2026 seventh-round pick they'd acquired from the Eagles to the Browns in exchange for Newsome and a 2026 sixth-round pick they'd gotten from the Jets. Just like that, Newsome was gone, off the market, heading to Jacksonville to join former Vikings Nick Mullins, Johnny Munt, and offensive line coach Grant Dudinski. And Minnesota left standing on the sidelines, watching a trade target they've been linked to for months disappear to another team. So what does this mean? Let's break it down. Newsome spent his rookie season as an outside cornerback, but moved to the nickel role after Cleveland drafted Martin Emerson Jr. in 2022. He struggled last season, but when Emerson suffered a season-ending Achilles injury in training camp this year, Newsome moved back outside and looked much more comfortable. He's 25 years old, still on his rookie contract, and has the talent to be a long-term starter in this league. The Jaguars saw value. They made the move, and the Vikings didn't. But here's the thing, Viking Nation, was this really a loss? Because when you look at Minnesota's cornerback situation right now, it's actually pretty damn good. Byron Murphy, the Pro Bowler they re-signed in the offseason, has been solid. Isaiah Rodgers, the free agent addition who had that historic game against the Bengals, has been a revelation. Together, Murphy and Rodgers might be one of the best cornerback duos in the entire NFL. The issue has been Jeff Okudah, the veteran who struggled all season with a brutal 40.5 PFF grade, the worst on the entire team. But Okudah is only playing about a third or a quarter of the defensive snaps each week. Would it really make sense to invest significant draft capital or cap space in a cornerback? Who's going to play such a limited role? And that's where the debate gets interesting. Some fans are furious that Minnesota didn't make a move for Newsome. They see a talented young cornerback who could have been a long-term solution, and they're angry that the front office didn't pull the trigger. But others are relieved. They see a team that's already got to elite corners in Murphy and Rodgers, and they'd rather see the Vikings invest resources elsewhere, like the offensive line, where injuries have been catastrophic, or at another position of need. Well, here's the real question. If the Vikings still want to add a cornerback, who should they target? One name that keeps popping up is Riq Woolen from the Seattle Seahawks. Woolen is a young, athletic corner with tons of upside, and if Seattle is willing to deal, he could be a perfect fit in Brian Flores' defense. The Vikings could also look to add more depth on the offensive line, considering the revolving door they've dealt with all season. The trade deadline is approaching, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has never been afraid to make a move. So don't be surprised if Minnesota is active in the coming weeks. And let me ask you this, Viking Nation, are you mad that the Vikings didn't trade for Newsome? Or are you relieved that they're sticking with Murphy and Rodgers? Do you trust the front office to make the right moves at the trade deadline? Or are you screaming for them to be more aggressive? Drop a comment right now and let the world know where you stand, because this debate is splitting the fan base right down the middle, and I want to hear from you. But if you thought this was a peak of chaos, the real avalanche is just starting, because the final story is about a player having the best season of his entire career. and it's not who you think. And if you think that was wild, just wait until the rivals make their counter move, because this final revelation is going to make you realize that championship teams are built on the details, the specialists, the players who don't get the headlines but make all the difference when the game is on the line. The Minnesota Vikings are 3-2 heading into the bye week, a solid record considering the avalanche of injuries that's buried this roster. And while most of the attention has been on the offense, the defense, the stars like Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones, there's one player who's having an absolute career renaissance, dominating his position and becoming one of the most valuable weapons on this entire team. And that player is punter Ryan Wright. Yes, you read that right, a punter. And before you roll your eyes, before you think this is some kind of joke, let me lay out the numbers, because they're going to blow your mind. Ryan Wright currently ranks 11th in the NFL in yards per punt, which is solid but not spectacular. But here's where it gets interesting. He ranks 4th in net yards per punt, which is a much more important stat because it accounts for returns and field position. His 7-to-7-yard punt is the longest in the entire NFL this season, and he hasn't had a single touchback, which is exactly what you want from an elite punter. Long punts aren't always ideal. You've probably heard the phrase outkicking the coverage. But Wright also ranks 5th in the league in average hang time, which means his punts are staying in the air long enough for the coverage team to get downfield and limit returns. And here's the kicker. According to DVOA, the Vikings have the best punt unit in the entire NFL right now. That's not just Wright. That's also the coverage team, led by third-round rookie Ty Felton, who's been a monster on special teams. But Wright is the engine. He's the one pinning opponents deep, flipping field position, and giving the defense a chance to suffocate opposing offenses. And in a season where the offense has struggled with consistency, where the defense has been the backbone of this team, having an elite punter has been absolutely critical. But it gets better. Wright has also been an excellent holder for kicker Will Reichard, who went 5 games before missing his first kick, and that miss only came because of a bad snap. The connection between Wright and Reichard has been flawless, and that consistency in the kicking game has given the Vikings an edge in close games. Remember, 2 of Minnesota's 3 wins this season have been fourth-quarter comebacks. Field position matters, special teams matter, and Wright has been a huge part of that success. Now, let's rewind for a second. Wright joined the Vikings as an undrafted free agent out of Tulane after the 2022 draft. He beat out veteran punter Jordan Berry in his first competition and hasn't lost the job since. But his first 2 seasons were mediocre. He was fine, but not great. The Vikings even brought in competition for him during the last 2 off-seasons. Most recently, Australian punter Oscar Chapman, who looked promising in training camp and the preseason, but ultimately lost the job to Wright. And now, in 2025, in his 4th season, Wright is finally putting it all together. He's dominating. He's become a weapon, and he's proving that sometimes patience and development pay off. And here's the best part. The Vikings are currently 10th in the NFL in overall special teams DVOA through the first 5 weeks. That's a massive improvement from 27th last year, 30th in 2023, and 30th in 2022. The front office made special teams a priority this offseason, signing players specifically for their special teams ability, drafting Ty Felton with the intention of using him as a gunner, and bringing in Matt Daniels to coach the unit. And it's paying off. Wright is a huge part of that success. And he's currently in a contract year, playing on a 1-year, $1.75 million extension he signed back in March. He turned 25 in June, and he's turned himself into a legitimate asset for this team. So let me ask you one final question. Viking Nation, do you appreciate the specialists? Do you understand that championship teams are built on every single phase of the game, including special teams? Do you believe that Ryan Wright deserves respect, recognition, and a long-term contract extension? Because if you do, if you believe that this team is built on details and discipline and domination in all 3 phases, then smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and drop a comment telling the world that Minnesota is different. That Minnesota is built for war. That Minnesota is coming for the NFC North. And listen closely. The next 72 hours might be the most decisive in this franchise's history. So let's step back for a second and take it all in. Because what we've just walked through isn't just 5 random news stories. This is the blueprint of a team fighting through adversity. A team discovering stars in unexpected places. A team making smart moves behind the scenes. and a team that's about to explode when everything finally clicks. The offense is mathematically due for positive regression. The injuries will heal. Christian Darrisaw, Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, Brian O'Neill, and Aaron Jones will all return. And when they do, the continuity, the communication, the chemistry will transform this unit. The penalties will drop because Kevin O'Connell is too good of a coach to let that continue. The red zone efficiency is already elite, and it's only going to get better. This offense is a sleeping giant, and when it wakes up, defenses across the league are going to pay the price. And the players? Carson Wentz has proven he can still play at a high level, giving Minnesota options and flexibility at the most important position on the field. Xavier Scott has shown he's a legitimate weapon in the passing game, adding another dimension to an already explosive offense. Isaiah Rodgers had the greatest single-game performance by a cornerback that we might ever see, and he's proven he belongs as a starter. Yalen Redmond and Levi Drake Rodriguez are dominating in the trenches, outplaying big-name free agents and proving that stars can be found anywhere. This roster is deeper, more talented, and more dangerous than anyone outside of Minnesota realizes. And the front office? They're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Signing Nick Vannett to the practice squad might seem like a small move, but it's exactly the kind of proactive, intelligent roster management that separates contenders from pretenders. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah isn't panicking. He's preparing. He's building depth. He's making sure that no matter what happens, this team has experienced reliable players ready to step in. And when it comes to the Greg Newsome trade that didn't happen, maybe that was the right call. Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers are already one of the best cornerback duos in the NFL. Why waste resources on a position that's already strong when you could invest elsewhere? And then there's Ryan Wright, the punter who nobody talks about, but who's having a career year, dominating his position, flipping field position, and giving this team an edge in the hidden battles that decide close games. Special teams matter. Field position matters, and Wright has been a weapon all season long. So here's what it all means. Viking Nation, this team is 3-2, sitting in the middle of the NFC playoff race, and they're about to get a wave of reinforcements back from injury during the bye week. The schedule softens. The offense is about to explode. The defense is already elite, and the special teams are finally becoming a strength instead of a weakness. Everything is aligning. Everything is building. And when this team finally hits full strength, when everyone is healthy, when the continuity returns, when the penalties drop, when the explosiveness unleashes, the rest of the NFC better watch out. But here's the thing. This isn't just about the Vikings. This is about you. This is about Viking Nation. This is about proving to the world that Minnesota isn't just another team fighting for a playoff spot. This is about proving that the Vikings are coming for the division, coming for the conference, coming for everything. And the only way that happens is if the fans show up. If the noise at US Bank Stadium is deafening. If the energy and the passion and the belief radiates from every single person who bleeds purple and gold. So if you believe in this team, if you believe in J.J. McCarthy's future, if you believe in Kevin O'Connell as genius, if you believe in Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's vision, if you believe that the Vikings are about to go on a run that shocks the entire league, then I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that like button and let the algorithm know that Viking Nation is alive and louder than ever. Second, drop a comment telling me which of these 5 stories shocked you the most, because I want to know what's got you fired up. And third, hit that subscribe button, because the next 72 hours are going to be wild, and you don't want to miss a single second of what's coming next. Because if this week felt like an earthquake, what's coming next could be the aftershock that topples the entire NFC North. The Packers are watching. The Lions are nervous. The Bears are irrelevant. And the Vikings are just getting started. The bye week is here. The reinforcements are coming. And the second half of the season is about to be the most explosive, most dominant, most unforgettable stretch of football that Minnesota has seen in years. So stay tuned, Viking Nation. Keep your eyes locked on this channel. Keep your hearts locked on this team, because the war is just beginning. And when the Vikings come out of this bye week, when they're healthy, when they're angry, when they're ready to prove that everything doubters said was wrong, the rest of the league is going to feel it. Skol Vikings, let's conquer.